the light coming. I can see the light. It's not dim, no. I can see the light coming. It's won't last. Your word will come. Your word will come. I can see the light. I can see the light. Coming. It's coming. I can see the light. I can see the light. I can see the light coming. I can see the light. I can see the light. I can see the light coming. It's won't last. Your word will come. Your word will come. I can see the light. Coming. It's coming. It won't last. Your word will come. Your word will come. I can see the light. It's coming. It's coming. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. All of your troubles. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. All of your heartache. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. I can see the light. This won't last. I can see the light. This won't last. I can see the light. This won't last. Your word will come. Your word will come. I can see the light. This won't last. 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 By faith I can see it. This won't last. By faith I can see it. This won't last. Your word will come. Your word will come. So you gotta hold on. This won't last. Hey, you gotta be strong. This won't last. Hey, you gotta hold on. This won't last. Hey, you gotta be strong. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. It won't last. This won't last. Your word will come. Your word will come. Yeah. This won't last. Come on, come on. This won't last. Everybody clap your hands. This won't last. Hey, yeah. This won't last. Hey, yeah. This won't last. I can see it by faith. This won't last. Yeah, boy.
Don't forget to like and share this broadcast with your friends and family on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube. Let all of your friends and family know to subscribe so that you know when the Center of Hope is going live.
You know, I'm thinking very hard about going back to school to do another doctorate degree. Thinking very hard about it.
I'm thinking about going back to get my GED. Why are you laughing?
God bless you and welcome to Real Talk. And I'm your host tonight, Bishop Mitchell G. Taylor. You hear that? Listen, if it's Monday night and it's 9 p.m., it's Real Talk. I'm so glad that you guys have decided to tune in on tonight. First thing I want you to do is share this broadcast and tag as many people in your ecosystem. If you got to get on the telephone, call some folks, let them know that the Real Talkers have aggregated themselves into the virtual space and we're ready to get it started on tonight. And I'm grateful to God for this opportunity just to come and to share and to dialogue and to really get into some didactic dialogue, some teaching dialogue, some revolutionary dialogue, things that will bring about some serious change and prosperity in our lives. And so I'm grateful on tonight. All of you that are in the virtual space on this evening, please, Mother Gray, God bless you. Put your name in the comment section. Let us know where you're coming from. Bless you, Melissa, Joseph, all the Kohai Nation. Deborah, bless you. All of you that are coming in. Crystal, Shafi, bless you, Shaf. Missed you on the day, Shaf. Justina, everyone that's coming in on tonight. God bless you on tonight. Hit that share button so we can get this party started on this evening. I want to bring my co-host in on tonight, His Grace, Bishop Liston Page II. Bishop.
God bless you, Dr. Taylor. How you doing tonight, my friend?
Well, listen, if it got any better, I couldn't stand it. So somebody said you better sit down. So, but no, things are well, you know, under the circumstances. If I could strip away all of the background noise and whatnot, I'd say it's a wonderful day, but you can't do that. You need the background noise. You need all of that interference seemingly to help you really focus. You know, it seems like those things are distractions and it kind of pushes you out of focus. But for me, you know, those things really move me into a place of focus, especially when I see things coming like Euroclydon, a storm coming from every direction. And one thing I learned, you know, I'm learning, and Bishop, you know, you're helping me learn this. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. And, you know, I have a real problem with that, you know, because I always try to see the best in people and try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And oftentimes, you know, we're left holding the bag because people, you know, faithfully disappoint that expectation. But my dad always told me, if you have no expectations, you'll have no disappointments. And so, but thank God for friends. Thank God for real friends. Thank God for people that you're in covenant with, and that people that don't just give lip service. You know, I'm tired of folks that all they do is say, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I'll do this, I'll be there. And then when the rubber hits the road, they're nowhere to be found. You can tell I'm on a soapbox tonight, right? You just say, listen, just stop me. Just stop me.
Man, listen, this is your show. Well, it's our show, but you know, hey, man, I'm feeling you. I know exactly where you're coming from. I got it. Trust me, I got it.
Well, listen, this has been a tremendous buildup. You know, we have been anticipating bringing on this great man of God that hails from South Florida, Miami in particular, formerly Cooper's Temple, now Upper Room Christian Ministries. And I am so proud of this man of God and what God has allowed him to do over the last couple of decades. And I'm just so proud of him. And I want the Real Talkers on tonight to help us welcome to the platform the one and only Bishop Mark Cooper.
Good evening, my brothers.
Bishop Cooper.
Bishop, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. I'm so grateful to have you on the platform on tonight and to share with us. We've got some things that we're going to chop up tonight. I don't know how we're going to get through it, especially when you look at the composition of all of us on this platform tonight. We share so many things in common. And as we begin to chop it up and begin to share in this, I want to call it a didactic dialogue, because I believe that from this conversation will manifest some salient thoughts of teaching and direction that I think that the Real Talkers are going to really be blessed with on tonight. Now, of course, when we dealt with the run of show and the framework for this dialogue on tonight, Russia wasn't invading Ukraine. Putin wasn't on the world stage being criticized for this move that has shaken not only Ukraine and that European region, but it has shaken the world. And to see the people in Ukraine, mothers and sons, going to the local police stations, and if they're 18 years of age and older, they're giving them arms and saying, here, defend your country. And when you look at the numbers, you know, Russia has 800,000 trained military troops, opposed to Ukraine's 246,000 military troops. And so I don't know how this is going to play out, but, you know, we're seeing, you know, people in the country, you know, I'm just trying to imagine how would we respond to, you know, an invasion on our soil. You know, those people, they've got the iron workers, they're building barricades, putting them in the streets in order to stop the tanks from rolling through. I mean, can you imagine this?
I mean, it's just insane to see it. I mean, I saw that I guess the liquor manufacturers, they stopped bottling liquor and they are now bottling gasoline and making those cocktails and delivering.
Molotov.
Yeah,
that's right.
So that they could fight. I think the thing that really spoke to me today, and it really touched my heart, was the heart and the fortitude of the men that are out there fighting. You talked about how big Putin's army was in comparison, and how many times have we heard this narrative, even when we look in the Bible. It's just like saying David's going after Goliath, you know what I'm saying? But they are fighting it, man. They are really, really, you know, standing up, and my heart is with them. You said, how would we do? What would we do? I mean, I would be doing the same thing. Man, I would get my AK-47. I'll be in the streets, man, and I'll be fighting, man.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess now, Bishop Page, I guess all of the people that are with the NRA and all of the people that have been amplifying the right to bear arms and how important it is, I bet you now they're probably heralding that message saying, you see, you know, because, you know, I mean, you know, you never know really in these last days, Bishop Page, I mean, from an eschatological perspective, what comes to your mind as a biblicist, as someone that is, you know, an astute student of the Bible? What comes to your mind when you see this kind of unilateral move by this country?
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up, Mitch. The eschatological climate that we're entering into now, just seeing Putin's behavior as a tyrannical, maniacal dictator, like those type of dictators of the Assyrian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Median Persian Empire, the Grecian Empire. He carries with him the tone of Alexander the Great and Hitler, who wants to dominate, control, and to hijack culture and enculturate another country with his own culture. And we may not want to be realists, or we might want to embrace it, but Trump has the same overtone with the slight differentiation of dictatorship. He has a lighter dictatorship that comes through economics, the control of finance and money, ecosystems, as you so eloquently like to say. That is Trump. But if we look at the scriptures, what's happening in Europe is, for me, a foretaste of the rapture, the coming of our Lord. He's preparing us for that second coming. And I don't think we understand, on the heels of a global pandemic, now we have the possibilities of war globally. So the Bible says wars, rumors of wars, divers places, sicknesses, diseases, all of those things will be. And we see a lethargic, lukewarm, disinterested church where people are no longer embracing the institution of Christianity, but they have become so disconnected in community until we just see the ushering in of the greater intensity of the spirit of the Antichrist. And we need to really be prayerful.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing, Mark. Bishop Cooper, Liston kind of referenced a church that is disinterested. I mean, that was so eloquently laid out as you brought us from the global pandemic now into the possibility of another Cold War being World War III if it unfolds. And Russia already announced that they are in phase 1 of nuclear preparedness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a powerful statement.
Very much, very much. You know, I think the point that Bishop made, and love you, Bishop. Thank God for you, man. The love of many will wax cold. It's all a part of the narrative of all of the things that would happen. And the church is disconnected. And I think we need to pay attention. You know, the church needs to pay attention to know the hour that we're in, you know, because this is just like the bridegroom coming and you don't have oil in your vessels. You're not ready. You're not prepared for this moment that is coming. And when I look at and listen to, you know, I'm thinking about all the sanctions that are being, you know, put against Russia. I'm like, what is his next move? Let's just chop it up. What's the next move when you get cut off from your finances? Your planes can't leave Russia, you know, all of these things that are going on. What will be his next move? Because it's not like if he pulls out of Ukraine, they're going to just remove some of these sanctions. These things are going to stay in place. So I really believe, you know, that we're looking at a man that is just willing to go all out, and we really need to pray. I don't see him being a guy that's going to step back at this place. We need to pray, man.
Well, that's amazing that you brought up some of the characteristics of Russia, because I have some subcontractors that work for my construction company. They're from Russia and Armenia. And so we would, and Crimea, Crimea, I think I'm saying it right, Crimea. And so I was talking to them today and I said, what do you think about what's happening? He said, Bishop, let me share something with you. Well, he's from Russia. His wife is from Crimea, that was already invaded by Russia, right? So now he said that, you know, he's Russian. He's from Russia. His family is from Russia. He said, Bishop, the difference between us and the United States, we don't care. Putin is a man that is living in a bunker that does not care. You know what I mean? And so he said it's more dangerous than we can imagine, because this is a man that has nothing to lose. And that's a dangerous place for the country to be at now. And for Bishop Page, for you to indicate all of those things methodically, and then to end it by saying the believers are disinterested in what's happening, you got to come back to me on that, because I mean, that creates a real situation. Now you can't leave us there.
Well, I think what happens is we've been in this exile, and we have to look at it as an exile. Just like Israel was exiled, we have been exiled for 25 or so months. Now, when you start thinking about exile, people get comfortable in exile. People create new patterns, paradigms in exile. And one of the disadvantages of being in this exile has been we have created a construct by way they can touch God, they can go to church, they can still do some religious activity. It's not the same as community, touching community, being connected, but it gives them some false sense that they are in a spiritual place. And we have done a tremendous job at creating this illusion that since we couldn't go to church, come here. And here has now become not just comfortable for them, but it's become very comfortable for us. And we have our lives back. Pastors have their lives back. Now they can go to brunch like the member could go to brunch. They can have vacation like the member have vacation. You know why? Because now technology has leveraged us where we can pre-record or we can go to Hawaii. Long as there's an internet connection, I can still meet my schedule. And the people meet me here online. Here's the problem. It stops us from shepherding and making people accountable. And a lack of accountability, men do what is right in their own eyes. And there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is death. There's 3 parables. I just throw it out there. Jesus had 3 parables, didactic narratives he taught in Mark. He talked about the wedding feast. Then he talked about the old patch being on to the new patch onto an old garment, then new wine into old wineskins. The bottom line is he's talking about old religious structures and they not having the bandwidth to expand and be flexible. But he doesn't say anything's wrong with the bad, because he said no one tasting the old has a desire for the new. So there is some credence. There's something important about the old foundation, the old ways of doing things. Maybe they weren't biblical. Maybe they weren't doctrinally sound, but they gave us foundation. They gave us community. They gave us connectedness. And that's what we're missing today. Connectedness, community, and accountability. And that plays into this whole narrative of what's going on globally. Because there is no accountability, I can't look in a person's eye now and see if they're really growing and developing and maturing. The internet does not give me a true barometer if what I'm really saying to you is going to produce any fruit. That's the purpose of the in-person, tactile, kinesthetic environment. We haven't learned how to be successful as a hybrid, doing both. So what we see globally, we're asleep. We're not even interested really in what's going on in Russia. But watch this, it's coming right to America, because what you see in Russia happened in Washington, at the White House, an insurrection where people rushed authority. It was anarchy, mass anarchy. But Russia's anarchy and takeover against another country is strategized, which tells us the enemy is more strategized than we are. We're asleep at the wheel. And if we're not careful, there's going to be a greater falling away from the church.
Wow. So, I mean, in that, Bishop, that's a great segue into this word I want to throw to you. Evolution. What is evolution? Because I talked about, and we got a few minutes. We still got a few minutes left on tonight. I talked about some of the similarities that we all share. Okay.
Mhm.
Number one is obvious. We're all African-American Black men. All right. We're all alpha males. Okay. We're all pastors. We're all bishops in the Lord's church. We're all sons of pastors. All three of our fathers started their ministries, and we all three of us followed in those footsteps. As jagged as it may have been, we found our way into where we are today. Talk to me, Bishop Page, as you set this up for Mark and I, about evolution. You can reference Darwinism and all those different things and whatnot, bring it together, and then give us a spiritual launching pad to talk about where we started and where we have evolved to now, so we can kick off this conversation for the Real Talkers tonight.
I think to make it simple, I think when you deal with evolution, you just talk about a process of change, different kinds of changes. And that's not to make it real technical and scientific and theological. It's just all about change. And I think every person, no matter who they are and what they believe, you're going to change. God doesn't leave it to you to change. You're going to change. And when you don't change, the change will destroy you if you don't adapt to the change. It's like seasons. Seasons don't ask you, can they come? They come and they go. If you don't adjust to the season, that season will destroy you. I don't necessarily like cold weather. I don't like cold weather, but I can't dress in the winter like I'm in August, like I'm down in Florida with Mark. I can't wear t-shirts and Speedo. I can't do that in the Northeast in January, February. It won't work. I'll catch pneumonia and I'll die. That's what's going on, I believe, in society. We haven't learned how to adjust, to change, and we don't like evolution. We don't like people to evolve, because when people start evolving, we lose the ability to control and to manipulate them. And we're into manipulation. We're into control. We're into really soft witchcraft. It ain't hard witchcraft. It's soft witchcraft. It's manipulation, it's control, and we want people to evolve at our rate of speed and not the rate of speed that has been given to them to organically develop.
Man.
Well, Bishop, that's perfect. Mark, Bishop Cooper, Bishop set us up now. I read a definition, maybe it's 3 degrees, below the defined definition of evolution, and it says a better version of your old self.
Mm-hmm.
And can you talk about, because when I think about evolution, I think about a monkey becoming a man. I guess that's a better version of your old self. but my, so we're not promoting that. But my point is, Mark, what do you think about when you think about evolution? I've known you for about 30 years. And when I think about evolution, I think about, when you first met me and, I was driving to South Florida, and as we evolve, we start flying to South Florida. But I mean, what do you think about when you think about where you are today? Did you have any idea that you would evolve? And a lot of people don't know your story, but what do you think about when you think about evolution?
When I think about it, number one, I never thought that I would be where I am. But the probability of it was there. Definitely growing up in my father's house, in the house of the pastor, being a musician. My relationship with church was slightly different than others because I was made to serve. I was a musician. So serving, I didn't just go to church with dad and sit on a pew. I was sitting on the organ. I was serving. And to look at evolution after coming in, and I know we'll have to back up some, but I'll jump ahead. After becoming who I am today, I can now look back and recognize evolution taking place in some of the things throughout the change of my life that God was putting in me what I would need today. Number one, sitting up playing the organ, backing up my father. I played for many bishops and preachers. I played for you when you would come down to South Florida, and that was what I did. But it put me in a position to listen and to hear the word of God. So it helped me in my evolution. Where I come from, I always said, man, I'll never be a preacher. Man, look at, looking at what my dad went through and just hearing when you were slightly on your soapbox earlier, dealing with people. I was like, no, I'm not dealing with that kind of stuff. I'm just telling you right now, you let it slide. I came from a street acumen. Throw them out. Deal with the problem. Don't let them sit in position and do whatever they want to do. And my father was the kind of father that was like, nah, son, that's not what you do in ministry. No, we let people serve. So, all of those things I saw, I never wanted to be here, but God ordained my life. And the journey that brought me here is worthy of a book.
Well, listen, I wish that one thing I always wished, and when I used to come back from South Florida, I used to tell my dad, I said, man, I wish you could meet Elder Linwood Cooper. I said, a couple of things. Number one, you guys will see eye to eye. Right. Because they were both 5 foot something. Yeah. And the other thing is, and Bishop Page, I want you to share this, and Mark, you're right, we're gonna come back. All of us share something very similar, that we all saw our parents abused by people. And I can share that, but Bishop Page has a very, very salient testimony of why he is really an academician, why he's a biblicist, why he has learned, and how he evolved, and what was the impetus for that, Bishop Page?
Well, I'll be honest, I did not necessarily want to be in church, though I was raised in church. Church was never one of my interests. It was something that was a call of my father and my mother, but it was never my interest. I could care less about church. I never liked church people. I never liked going to church. That was my pathology. And like Mark, I love playing drums, and I was very, very good at it, and I played professionally. So if it was about music, I could do that outside the church. That was not an issue for me. I just didn't like church. But what caused me to be studious was maybe at the age of 12 or 13, my father at that time pastored 5 churches, and he would drive to each location. So we're talking about, he pastored a church in Boston, Massachusetts. He pastored a church, Paterson, New Jersey, one in Manhattan. He pastored one in South Carolina. I mean, so my dad was trying. In those days, you didn't get on a plane. He would have his Volkswagen, jump in that Volkswagen and drive to these locations with his musician. That's my nomenclature growing up of church. So when my mother started ministering, which wasn't very popular in the apostolic denominations, so that made us an outcast in terms of maybe some of the major apostolic denominations. My mother starts teaching. My father leaves her in charge of Bible study. Well, I'm sitting there 13 years old, 12, 13, no more than 14, but I'm sitting there and I watch in a Bible study her so-called sisters who say they love my mother and they were her friends attack her in a Bible study, asking her biblical questions that they would dare not ask my father in a Bible study because he was more prepared, more experienced to answer that. So to go home, and at that time we lived above the church in a brownstone. The church we had a storefront church downstairs. We lived above the church. I remember going upstairs and watching my mother in the bedroom cry. It broke my heart. And what's wrong, Mom? And nothing, I'm good. But they would, in those days, they didn't tell you when something was wrong. You had to kind of pick it up. But I knew she was devastated because her so-called friends pushed her in a corner in a Bible study, and they attacked her biblically when she wasn't equipped to do it. And I said to myself, if I don't want to be, but if I ever become a pastor, no one will ever be able to ask me any question that I will not have an answer. And if I don't have the answer, I'll know enough to answer the question and come back and give them a more complete presentation. So that's kind of, Mitch is right. That drove me to be more studious and to be an academic. And then when I started preaching, I gave up everything, music, everything. And I focused on memorizing the Bible because I never wanted to be in any setting where I was not equipped.
Wow. Mark, I know that, you talked about, your evolution and what kind of drove you, and you kind of hit it. You said, I didn't like the way they talked to my dad. I didn't like the way they, handled him. And, and I was the same way because Liston's dad was tall, imposing, probably jack you up. My dad was short, dependent, you know what I mean? And what have you. And I felt an obligation to protect him.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I know you felt that. And the deal is my dad was super humble, just like your dad.
Yeah, my dad.
Super humble. Mark, how did you deal with that? Because I know there were times when you would call me and say, listen, this is not going to work. How did you?
I think the thing was for me, and I want to pick up on this, Mitch, because I want to piggyback off of something that Bishop Page said. I went through the same thing with regard to after, and again, we're jumping around a little bit, but after my dad died and Bishop Jacob Cohen named my mother the pastor, Church of God in Christ, woman named pastor. Oh, I saw the same thing. I saw the same people that loved her when she wore her Jack McConnell hats, and when she had on her St. John's and she walked in with her rhinestones and she was being first lady and being beautiful and blah, blah, blah. I had her Louis Vuittons and her Gucci and all that. And that was, oh my God, Mother Cooper. But the moment she became the pastor, I watched them turn on her. I watched her be the subject of bashing sessions at conventions and in services. And even then, I had answered the call, but I still didn't want the job because, again, it was what I saw happen to them. I think what happened with me was that the experience that I had, while Bishop Page stated that, he kind of could have gone a different way and still been involved in music and did not need church. Enter your relationship with me and the record company. I end up with a record contract with Savoy. Mitch, you and I, Bishop, we meet and that we go down that path. And as I go down that path, and probably being over music ministry so long, I really pastored music. I was pastoring people. By the time I took over Miami Mass Choir, that was between 100 and 150 people. I was pastoring 150 people every week in rehearsal, dealing with their problems, dealing with their issues, hearing what was going on in their life, going to support them when their families died. So I began to pastor a large group of people at an early age, you know, dealing with Miami Mass, that I believe set me on track. I think everybody experiences evolution, but I believe we go through several evolutions. It's not just one, but we continue to evolve. I mean, when you talk about Moses, when you look at Moses, he had the first evolution was him finding out, first of all, who he was. Because at first he's living in Pharaoh's house, but then his Israel, his Jewish characteristics start showing up, and he begins to find out who he really was. And then after that, he goes into the second evolution, where God then strips him and begins to show him what his destiny was. So now he loses who he thought he was. I call Moses the identity crisis dude, because he didn't know who he was. He finds out who he is. And then when he finds out who he is, and then God strips him again and says, this is what I want you to do. And I think that's really what happened with me, you know, that God stripped me down. There were things that I went through where God stripped me down to get a yes out of me. And I didn't have a choice. I mean, I went into it in a way that I was bitter. I went into it in a way that I was willing. How can you be willing and bitter at the same time? You know, it's crazy, because it's like, yeah, I want to be here, but I'm also upset because God kind of took away my music ministry. You know, I'm doing music. I want to travel the world. You know, I want to be an MD. I want to be an MD on the stage with everybody else. You know, I always say to myself, I want to be Mary J. Blige's MD. You know, I want to be on the road. I want to get on planes. I want to go to city to city to city. And now I'm stuck in Miami, Florida on 199th Street. Wow. But, you know, I have to say that when God put his purpose and his destiny and ordered my life, I mean, I'm grateful, because I can look at life and say right now, if he had not done it, I would be dead. If he had not done it, I would be in prison. If he had not done it, no telling where I would be. So to God be the glory for evolution and where he took me.
Right. And you know, you said something that kind of triggered something for me to write. I wrote the word chosen, and I wrote the word hands of God. And, you know, when I think about Mark, when I think about, you know, how you talk about those evolutions, you know what I mean? You know, I saw those evolutions, you know, I lived those evolutions. I think we all have lived those evolutions. What do you think was one of the hardest lessons, Mark, that you had to learn, you know, seeing your father transition, first of all, starting on the organ, observing church from a panoramic view. The organ is a pulpit of its own recognition. And see, one thing I can say about you, you were not a musician. You were really a minister of music.
Right.
And there's a difference between a minister of music and a musician. A musician, you got to tell him when to play.
Right.
A minister of music knows when to play.
Right.
A musician, you got to tell him what to play. A minister of music is tuned in and already knows what to play.
Right.
A musician is reactive. A minister of music is proactive. I mean, so, you know, a lot of these guys are going out here claiming to be a minister of music, and they don't even understand what that title is. But having served and evolved in so many of those different levels, from a musician to a minister of music to a minister of the gospel, what would you say was one of the hardest lessons you had to deal with in that evolution process?
I would say to come to understand that when you are chosen and when God's hands are on your life, and he is orchestrating your life, there will be some things that he will do that will hurt you. There are some things that will break you in the process. The hardest lesson I had to learn was for God to get me to this place, it would cost me my father and my mother.
Mm.
And
Wow.
You know, that was something that I live with every day. I look at the timing of everything that was going on in my life, and strategically, God ordered the year of 95, 96, 97, 98. Those were his years that his hand was on my life, that he was dictating everything that happened. When he took my father, yeah, it hurt. It really did hurt. But my mother was the pastor. But when mom got sick and mom said to me, baby, are you ready to take over the leadership of the church? I said to her, Mom, as long as you're alive, I'm standing with you. You're God's chosen person. And then mom started saying to me, well, you know, it might be your time, baby. It might be your time. And I just didn't want to accept that. In months later, God took her and I became the pastor. My evolution was that when he took them, I couldn't even mourn them because he put me in the seat and I had to start serving. I became the pastor. Bishop Cohen, I know you came down during those times when Bishop Cohen eulogized my mother at the funeral on the Saturday. He announced me to be the pastor with no conversation.
Right.
You know, because the apostolic order of the old school, they said what God said, and you just had to deal with it. Now, look what we do, man. We have to call people in the office and have a counseling session and talk to them about it and ask them, are they willing? And will you do this? No, Bishop Cohen stood up at the funeral and said, and he is the pastor. The next day, they marched me into the church. They marched me into the church, and I became the leader of Cooper Temple. And I watched from that day how God orchestrated. So to answer your question, the hardest lesson that I had to learn, that ultimately, and I'll sum it up this way, God will do whatever he has to do to get you where he wants you to be.
Wow. Bishop Page, as we're coming to the end of this narrative, and it looks like we're going to have to bring Mark back for part 2 on next week. But, you know, we've made some mistakes. I've made some major mistakes, you know, in ministry and in life and in my evolution. What would you advise to the real talkers on today as they are where they are today? But we all know that God has a way of blowing our minds with a future plan that is not necessarily revealed to you where you are. What could you tell the real talkers, Bishop Page, about how to deal with what you don't know? How do you deal with I don't want to confuse the question, but in other words, how do we make sure that we don't derail what God has for us as we evolve? You know, because sometimes I feel like, you know, in my evolution, yeah, I evolve, but I mess some things up on the way that I can't fix. What could you tell the real talkers tonight that we should be thinking about as we're evolving?
I said it in the beginning. Judges 21 in verse 25, the last chapter in the book of Judges, the last verse. There was no king in Israel. They did what was right in their own eyes. If I'm going to help anyone tonight, you got to have people in your life that you listen to, that you don't just hear, but you listen to. When they give you advice, particularly if it's a God-inspired word of advice, that you take it seriously and you adhere to it, because there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is death. The only thing I can lend to the Real Talkers is when you have accountability voices. If you don't want to derail your future, you need to embrace the counsel that they give. I think I've landed in a pretty decent place. I think I'm in a very successful space, but I could have been so much further in life, in ministry, had I just listened. There's certain flags that I can't carry and wave because I didn't listen to the counsel of my father and my mother. I mean, there's certain ministries I can't head because I didn't listen to the counsel of my mother and father. And if we're going to be honest, those are the things that Paul said disqualify you. He says, I can't preach to others, and I don't bring myself under the same level of expectation. If I do, I cause myself to be a castaway. And I'm just grateful for the grace of God, for the mercy of God, because there's nothing I've done that I deserve to be where I am right now, because I'm the poster child for not listening to wise counsel. If I could help anybody, it would be that. Listen to those who you trust and who you give access to your life. To be honest, listen to them.
Wow. Well, listen, if it's Monday night and it's 9 o'clock, it's Real Talk. You know, I'm taking away from this conversation on tonight, and I'm being presumptuous to think that maybe Bishop Cooper can join us again for a part 2 of this conversation. We haven't even broached some of the stuff that we want to kind of uncover, and you Real Talkers don't want to miss this. And if I can be presumptuous and ask Bishop Cooper to consider coming back with us next week, we'll hit this again. But I want to say on tonight that you know, all of us have lost something that we can't wave the white flag over. And you know, Bishop Page, I appreciate your transparency and your honesty with the Real Talkers tonight. But guess what? All have come short in some way. And where you can't hold the flag, Mark can hold the flag. Where Mark can't hold the flag, you can hold the flag. We all are workers together, one with each other. And I believe that if the people of God would stop criticizing and tearing people down because of their natural orientation, the flesh, being in perpetual evolution and transition, that we would be a church that would be more defined, more deliberate in the way we engage populations and bringing them into a relationship with Christ. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to help people escape the penalty of sin and to connect with God. I mean, ultimately, I used to hear my dad say, I'm not going to heaven because I'm scared of hell. I'm going to heaven because the love of God is pulling me there. So listen, we're going to come back to this on next week, And Bishop Page, Bishop Cooper, final remarks on tonight before we transition and let you guys go. We'll give you the first last comments, Bishop Cooper.
I want to just say I'm glad to be here. I look forward to sharing. I think this conversation also helps me to take a glimpse at my story and really thank God for where He has brought me. I am doing what I enjoy. I enjoy being who I am in God. And if I can talk to my dad, I will tell him I've learned those things that I saw you do. The things that I told you I would never do, I have now done them, and I understand what it is to really be in ministry. So listen, I thank God for this platform. I look forward to sharing next week with you all. You know, I love you all. You guys are my brothers. You have held me accountable. You all have shared things in my life that have helped me to be better. So I thank you, Bishop Page. I thank you, Bishop Taylor. I love you.
We love you too. Bishop Page, final comments on tonight for the Real Talkers.
Well, you know, I'm just excited that we got the Mark Cooper with us tonight. I mean, I'm very excited and I'm pleased about that. And I'm equally excited that he's going to be back with us on next week. But watching him and you, should I say, who have lost their father, it just helps me to reinforce my appreciation for my father who's still alive. It helps me to stay in an existential moment of gratitude because I don't have to say, I wish I would have listened to my dad now that he's gone. I can go back to my dad and say, I should have listened to you, but I'm going to listen to you now. And he's there to hear me say, unfortunately, I've learned some lessons, but at least he can see me clean some of those things up. So that's my takeaway from tonight.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Listen, I have, they installed this red light in my studio now. So my producers, no matter where they are controlling this broadcast, that red light starts flashing. That means it's time to get off there. So listen, they know better than us. They know these algorithms and how much people can bear and all that kind of stuff. It's always good to end on a high note. We got over 200 people watching us between YouTube and Facebook. And, it means that people really enjoyed the dialogue on tonight. So thank you, brethren. Thank you. And Bishop Cooper, we'll see you on next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. And we are going to really hit some stuff. I need you to be back with us because we're going to be dealing with sexuality on next week, humanity next week. And guess what? How you juggle all of that in a Christian context, the stuff we don't never want to talk about, but we're going to talk about it. And I want you to come back and be with us as we chop it up from, I would call it a PK perspective.
All right.
All right. You've heard it first right here on Real Talk. And tonight, I am so grateful that you guys have joined us and have been with us the entire night. Now, listen, anytime we have guests, I need the Real Talkers to show your appreciation and to sow a seed of appreciation so that we can be a blessing to our guests on tonight. And I'm asking all the Real Talkers, watch this. This is going to blow you away. This is going to blow you completely away. I'm asking all the Real Talkers on tonight to sow a simple seed of 22. That's it. $22 seed. The ways to give are on the bottom of the screen. Now watch this. I know everyone's going to do it, but I need 40 people, 40 of the Kohai Nation, 40 of the Real Talkers that have partnered with me to say, Bishop, I'm going to be with you to sow the $22 seed. I need you to start sowing that seed now. If you want to sow Cash App, $, the Kohai Nation, or PayPal, Zelle, kohigives@gmail.com. kohigives@gmail.com. I need 40 people. 40. How many did I say? 40. 40 is the number of transition. I believe that this is a transition for us. Thank you so much for your seed, T. 22, Melissa, thank you so much for your seed. As you're sowing that seed, put done in the comment section so that we can acknowledge your seed. Thank you, Wendy Pittman, for your seed of 22 on tonight. I need 40 of my partners, 40 of my intercessors to say, Bishop, I'm standing with you on tonight with a seed of 22. Thank you, Barbara, for your seed of 22 on tonight. Listen, I need everyone in. Thank you, Mother Newland. Thank you, Maquasha, for your seed of 22. Thank you, Peter Keynes. Peter, you blessed us Sunday. You blessed us, my God. God has anointed you to sing. Shonda, Minister Shonda, bless you. Thank you for your seed of 22. Kikora, thank you for your seed of 22 on tonight. I'm almost there. I need those 40 intercessors, my partners. Corinne, thank you. President, I like saying that. President Corinne Haynes, God bless you on tonight. God bless you on tonight. I need 40 people to sow and partner with me with the seed of 22. 40 people on tonight to partner with me with the seed of 22. Now, listen, as you're sowing that seed, and I know you're going to sow that seed on tonight, those that are watching, those that are part of this broadcast, as you're sowing that seed on tonight. Thank you, Shafi. As you're sowing that seed on tonight, Rachel, thank you so much. I believe God for your spiritual growth. Mackie Julie, I believe God. Franco Harris, I believe God. Whatever you're believing God for, I believe God with you on today. You can't beat God giving no matter how you try on this evening. Listen, if you didn't have a 20, if you're not one of the 40 that's going to sow the 22, I need those 40 intercessors that are partnering with me. Say, Bishop, I'm with you. I'm not going to allow you to do this alone. Kenya, thank you so much. I need you to sow the seed of 22. All right. Now, outside of the 40 people tonight, I need you to get some kind of seed with 2 in it. 2 in it. It could be $2. It could be $12. It could be $20. It could be $122. But 2. It could be $2. But I need you to sow a seed with 2 on this evening. All right. I need those 40 intercessors. Thank you, Carmen Carr, for your seed of 22 on tonight. But I need those 40 intercessors to complete that loop. Rhonda, thank you for your seed of 22. Vivian, thank you for your seed on tonight. But those of you that don't have the $22 seed, get a seed with 2 in it and watch God bless you with double. Job was faithful to God, and at the end, he got double of everything he lost. I'm here to let you know that this is the season, this is the time to receive double. I believe God on today. I believe God on today. Thank you, Pastor Thomas, Joanne Thomas, for your seed of 22 on tonight. Listen, thank you so much. I know that while we're digressing and going off the air on tonight, you're still going to sow those seeds on tonight. Seed offering is 22. I thank God for you. We'll be back on next Monday with our guest, the Honorable Bishop Mark Cooper. And if it's Monday night and it's 9 p.m., it's Real Talk. I'll see you next week.